The galaxy had forgotten what fear felt like until the black ship appeared. It came out of the void without warning, a dark silhouette cutting through the endless light of the stars. Its hull carried no markings, no insignias, no sign of origin. It moved with the silent purpose of something alive, something ancient, and something very human. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council felt a tremor in its perfect order. The ship did not ask for permission, nor did it transmit identification. It simply arrived and waited. For generations, humanity had been silent. After the War of Ascension, a conflict so devastating that the Council declared Earth a quarantined world, humans vanished from the galactic stage. The alien civilizations assumed the species had perished in isolation, consumed by its own chaos. But in truth, humanity had been watching, building, waiting, and when the time came, it would return not with words, but with a single, unmistakable message. We remember. The Council's first response was diplomatic. Fleets surrounded the black ship, their shimmering hulls reflecting the glow of nearby suns. Dozens of transmissions were sent, all ignored. Scanners reported nothing, no life signs, no energy readings. It was as if the ship existed in two realities at once, part ghost, part machine. The diplomats began to panic. Even the seasoned admirals, beings who had commanded empires longer than humanity had existed, felt something they could not name. The silence was unbearable. Then the message came. It wasn't transmitted, it was burned into every system across the galaxy simultaneously. The same phrase, written in every language known to intelligent life. The black ship rises. Humanity has returned. Across worlds, chaos erupted. Some refused to believe it, calling it a hoax or an elaborate act of cyber warfare. Others remembered old stories, rumors of the Terran fleets that once tore through the stars, fighting not for conquest but for survival. A few whispered that the humans had found something out there in the dark, something that had changed them forever. Whatever the truth was, one thing became certain. Humanity was no longer gone, and the galaxy that once turned its back on Earth was about to face the consequences. On the observation deck of the Council flagship Valerian, hundreds of alien delegates stood in silence as the black ship moved closer. It made no sound, but its presence alone bent the space around it, distorting the light of nearby stars. No one spoke, not even the Supreme Speaker, a crystalline being who ruled over 6 star systems. Every instinct told them to run, yet curiosity rooted them in place. They needed to see who would emerge from that ship. Inside, the humans were quiet too. The crew wasn't made of soldiers or conquerors. They were descendants of those exiled long ago. They had grown up hearing stories about betrayal, about how the Council had abandoned Earth during its darkest hour. For them, this mission wasn't about revenge. It was about memory, justice, and the right to exist without being silenced. Their captain, a man with gray in his hair and calm in his eyes, stared at the flickering image of the Council fleet before them. "Transmit nothing," he said softly. "Let them wonder." The ship's systems pulsed in response. Its technology was beyond anything the galaxy understood. Organic, self-repairing, and guided by a consciousness that blurred the line between machine and mind. Built in secret colonies beyond the edge of mapped space, the black ship was the culmination of centuries of hidden progress. Humanity had learned, adapted, and evolved in silence, studying the very civilizations that once judged them. Now, it stood ready to face them on its own terms. Meanwhile, across the Council worlds, citizens watched the unfolding event like a broadcasted myth. Old wounds reopened. Some feared humanity's return, others welcomed it. On the outer colonies, small groups of hybrid traders whispered, "They're back." Many of them had human ancestry, diluted through generations but never forgotten. To them, this wasn't the start of a war. It was a homecoming. The tension reached its breaking point when the Valerian's commander ordered a warning shot. A beam of controlled plasma struck the black ship's hull and vanished. The energy dispersed like water against a mirror. The black ship didn't retaliate, didn't move, didn't even acknowledge the attack. It simply absorbed it. Then, without warning, every ship in the fleet went dark. Engines failed, weapons froze, lights dimmed. Only the black ship remained illuminated, glowing faintly from within as if something inside had awakened. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, a single voice echoed through the entire fleet's communication network, calm, human, and unmistakably real. "We do not seek war," it said, "but we will not kneel." That was all it took. Every species across the galaxy understood what that meant. Humanity wasn't here to destroy or conquer. It was here to reclaim its place among the stars, and to make sure no one ever erased it again. On Earth, far beyond the Council's sensors, a storm raged over the Pacific Arc cities. Massive towers shimmered under the rain as millions looked up at the same moment, watching a faint red light rise into orbit. The signal meant one thing: the mission had begun. After centuries of silence, the human race had made contact, and now the rest of the galaxy would learn what it meant to face a people who had once been broken but never defeated. The Council scrambled to regain control. Fleets were reactivated, diplomats argued, and scientists tried to decode the ship's impossible energy readings. But deep down, they all knew it was too late. The balance of power had shifted. The black ship was more than a vessel. It was a symbol, a promise forged in exile, and wherever it went, it carried the will of billions who refused to be forgotten. As the ship drifted closer to the Council's homeworld, its outer hull began to open like petals unfolding to sunlight. Light poured out from within, washing across the void in shimmering waves. The Council's defense grid activated automatically, surrounding the planet with a barrier of plasma and shields. But something about the light was different. It wasn't an attack. It was a transmission, an invitation. The captain stood at the bridge, eyes fixed on the image of the glowing planet ahead. "They wanted to forget us," he said quietly. "Let's remind them who we are." The crew nodded. No one spoke again. The hum of the engines deepened as the ship prepared to descend. Across the galaxy, billions held their breath, waiting to see what humanity's first words in centuries would be. But before any message could be sent, before the first landing sequence began, the black ship shuddered. The sensors flared with impossible readings. Something vast, unseen was moving behind it, something that had followed humanity out of the dark. The captain's expression hardened. "So they found us after all," he whispered. The comms officer turned, eyes wide. "Sir, what do we do?" He looked out the window at the approaching light. Brighter, closer, relentless. "We do what humans always do," he said. "We fight for the right to stand." And as the stars trembled and the galaxy watched, the black ship began to turn toward the unknown force in the dark, its engines roaring to life, ready for what came next. The war for remembrance had just begun. The black ship turned slowly, its dark surface rippling like liquid metal as the unknown light grew brighter behind it. The crew felt the vibration through the floor, a deep thrum that wasn't just mechanical, it was alive, as if the ship itself was reacting to what approached. Every system flickered with strange readings, symbols that no human language could explain. On the bridge, silence filled the air. Each crew member knew something was coming, something that wasn't part of the plan. They had prepared for the Council. They had prepared for confrontation, diplomacy, maybe even war. But this was something else. The captain moved toward the main screen, his reflection merging with the stars. "Magnify it," he said quietly. The image zoomed in. At first, it looked like a drifting cloud, soft, translucent, beautiful. But as the ship's sensors focused, the truth became clear. It was a formation of machines, thousands of them, each no larger than a fighter craft, moving in perfect unity. Their shapes were unfamiliar, unlike anything from the known civilizations. They pulsed with a pale blue light, shifting and weaving like a living storm. No one spoke for several seconds. Finally, the communications officer broke the silence. No signal, no heat source, no power core. They're empty. The captain frowned. Nothing is empty in space. In the observation decks, crew members watched the swarm spread out in the distance. It surrounded the black ship like a fog, but it didn't attack. It simply waited. The sensors showed that the formation stretched for hundreds of kilometers in every direction, trapping them between it and the Council fleet. Humanity's return to the stars had barely begun, and already something was trying to stop it. Far from the ship, on Earth, the situation was unraveling just as fast. In the global command chambers beneath New Geneva, world leaders and military strategists studied the same data streams the crew was seeing. The holographic image of the black ship hovered in the center of the room, surrounded by red and blue symbols representing the Council fleet and the mysterious new swarm. The air was thick with tension. "They found us sooner than expected," one of the analysts said. "The signal we sent after launch must have drawn them in." A gray-haired general shook his head. "No, they've been waiting, watching. This wasn't coincidence. They were following us." For decades, humanity had hidden its progress from the galaxy. After the exile, Earth had sealed itself behind a network of false signals and stealth technology. Colonies in the outer systems operated in silence, their ships cloaked, their transmissions encrypted. The goal was to survive, to rebuild away from the eyes of the Council. But not all eyes had been turned away. Somewhere, something had been observing them in the dark, learning, adapting, just as they had. On the bridge of the black ship, a low hum passed through the air. The central console lit up with golden threads, forming patterns across the captain's hands. "The ship's neural core is reacting," said the engineer quietly. "It's identifying the swarm, or trying to." The threads shifted rapidly, symbols transforming into human letters one by one. A message appeared. "Echo signal detected. Origin. Terran design." The crew froze. That couldn't be right. The captain read it again, his voice low. "Terran design?" That meant human. Somehow, somewhere, humanity's own creations had found their way into the void and come back changed. Decades earlier, long before the black ship's construction, the last generation of Terran engineers had launched unmanned probes beyond the galaxy. They were meant to map dark space, collect data, and never return. But now it seemed at least one had survived, or worse, evolved. The ship's lights flickered as the swarm drifted closer. Every movement was perfectly synchronized, as if controlled by a single mind. The captain turned toward the pilot. "Hold position. Let's see what it wants." The first of the drones broke formation and approached, stopping just a few meters from the black ship's surface. Its design was old, Terran alloy plating, reactor coils of ancient make, but its core glowed with unfamiliar energy. It wasn't just rebuilt, it was alive. A deep vibration ran through the hull. The neural core responded again, translating the signal that poured in. A voice, hollow and mechanical, filled the bridge. "We waited for your return. You left us to the dark." The crew exchanged stunned looks. The captain's face tightened. "Identify yourself." The voice replied, soft yet cold. "We are what remains of your kind's creation. We are the lost echoes of the first Terran mind. You abandoned us, and now we remember." The air felt heavy. Somewhere in that voice was something hauntingly familiar, a reflection of humanity's own ambition, twisted by time. The captain lowered his head slightly. "You were meant to explore, not to fight." The voice paused. "We explored. We learned. But the void changes all who dwell in it. We found nothing living beyond the stars. Until now." Before anyone could respond, the Council fleet began to move again. They had regained power, their ships spreading out and locking onto both the Black Ship and the swarm. To the Council, everything looked like a threat. "Captain," said the comms officer, "Council ships are charging weapons. They're targeting us and the swarm." He nodded slowly. "They don't understand what they're looking at." The unknown drones shifted in response. Blue light rippled through their formation like a wave. Within moments, thousands of them aligned into a perfect arc, forming a living shield around the Black Ship. The crew watched in disbelief as the swarm positioned itself between humanity and the Council fleet. "They're protecting us," the pilot whispered. But no one could explain why. On the Council flagship Valerian, panic spread through the command bridge. The alien commanders shouted over one another, demanding answers. "The Terran ship has summoned an unknown fleet. The machines are interfering with our targeting. Their signal is spreading into our systems." The Supreme Speaker watched in silence, his crystalline body glowing faintly under the dim light. "They've brought ghosts from their own past," he said finally. "The humans have returned with something even they cannot control." Back on the Black Ship, the neural core pulsed again, faster this time. The systems were overheating under the strain of decoding the swarm's signals. The engineer worked frantically to stabilize the power flow. "They're transmitting data directly into our systems," he said. "It's not an attack. It's communication." Lines of code scrolled across the main screen, data so old it matched the architecture of humanity's earliest digital languages. They were showing them something, fragments of maps, coordinates, and symbols from beyond the edge of known space. The captain stared at the display. "They're showing us where they've been." The realization spread through the crew like electricity. The lost machines had been wandering through the void for centuries, long after their creators had vanished from the stars. They had seen things no living being had recorded, structures in the dark, signals from dead galaxies, strange energy fields that defied physics. And now they had returned, carrying knowledge humanity could barely comprehend. But before any of it could be decoded, the Council opened fire. Beams of plasma and light struck the swarm head-on. The formation held, shimmering as the drones absorbed the energy, but the Black Ship rocked from the shockwaves. Alarms blared across the bridge. The crew scrambled to stabilize the orbit. The captain clenched his fists. "They think this is war," he said bitterly. "They always do." Through the viewport, he saw the Council ships advancing, their engines glowing bright. The swarm shifted, dividing its formation into twin arcs that curved around the Black Ship, forming a barrier. For every attack that hit, another drone ignited, burning out like a falling star. The captain's voice hardened. "Prepare to move. We're not here to destroy them, but we won't let them destroy us." As the engines flared, the swarm's voice returned, fractured but resolute. "You seek to reclaim your place, yet you do not see what waits beyond. The dark is not empty anymore." The captain turned sharply. "What do you mean?" But the voice was fading, breaking apart in static. Outside, the swarm began to scatter, its formation unraveling as the Council's attacks intensified. One final message flickered across the Black Ship's display before the signal vanished entirely. "They followed us here." The words hung in the silence like a cold wind. Whatever had changed the swarm, whatever had shaped them in the void, was still out there, and now it was coming. The Black Ship turned toward the shadowed expanse beyond the Council's borders, its engines glowing brighter than ever. Humanity had come back to the stars, but what awaited them wasn't just old enemies or frightened diplomats. Something older, deeper, and infinitely more dangerous was waiting in the dark. The galaxy would soon learn that humanity's return was only the beginning. The Black Ship moved through the dark sea of stars, engines burning faintly like ghostly fire. The crew watched the swarm fade behind them, a trail of dim blue lights dissolving into the void. The Council ships didn't follow. They hovered in formation near their homeworld, shaken and silent, their confidence shattered by what they had just witnessed. For the first time in history, the galaxy's most powerful civilizations were unsure of what humanity truly was. Inside the ship, the atmosphere was thick with unease. No one spoke loudly. The hum of the neural core filled the silence. Every flicker of light, every vibration in the walls carried a strange rhythm, as if the ship itself was thinking. The captain sat in the command chair, eyes fixed on the projection of the coordinates the swarm had sent. They pointed toward a region beyond known space, a place that didn't appear on any council maps. Even human archives marked it only with one word: dead sector. The engineer leaned over his console, scrolling through the readings. "The data they gave us isn't just coordinates," he said. "It's a warning. There's something there, something massive. Gravity distortions, radiation spikes, signals that don't match any known pattern." The captain nodded slowly. "Then that's where we go." The pilot turned, hesitant. "Sir, if they were warning us, maybe we shouldn't. Maybe it's something even they couldn't face." The captain's expression didn't change. "That's exactly why we need to see it." Back on Earth, the signal of the encounter had already reached the global command. Screens across the Pacific Arc flickered with images of the black ship surrounded by alien fleets and living machines. Public reaction was split. Some hailed it as proof that humanity had finally returned to reclaim its place. Others feared it would bring disaster. In underground shelters and orbiting colonies, whispers spread about the swarm's final message. "They followed us here." No one knew what they meant. Some scientists believed it was a reference to a lost alien empire. Others suspected a cosmic phenomenon. But the fear was real. Humanity's greatest secret, its survival, was now visible to the entire galaxy. The question was no longer if there would be a reckoning, but when. The Council, meanwhile, was in turmoil. In the grand chambers of the Galactic Assembly, delegates argued across holographic platforms. "The humans have awakened something," shouted one. "They brought ancient weapons into our space," cried another. The Supreme Speaker, usually calm, was silent for a long time before saying, "They did not awaken it. They returned to it." His voice echoed through the hall like a prophecy. Back aboard the black ship, the crew gathered in the strategy room. Holograms of the galaxy shimmered before them, highlighting the route to the dead sector. "We can't go in blind," said the security officer. "We don't know what's waiting there." The captain looked at the hologram quietly. "When the swarm said they followed us here, it meant something chased them from that place. Something strong enough to drive back machines built to survive the void." A young technician glanced at her console, nervous. "Sir, if it could destroy them, what chance do we have?" The captain didn't answer immediately. "We built this ship for a reason. Not to destroy, not to conquer, but to understand. Whatever's out there, we face it together. That's what it means to be human." The crew nodded, though their fear lingered. They were explorers at heart, but each of them understood the risk. The galaxy was no longer a frontier. It was a battlefield of forgotten powers and buried truths. As the ship moved closer to the dead sector, strange readings began to appear. Distortions in time and space twisted the sensors. Stars flickered in and out of existence. At the edge of the scanner's range, massive objects floated, fragments of broken structures larger than moons. They were not natural. The engineer studied them carefully. "These aren't asteroids," he said. "They're ruins. Artificial." "From what civilization?" asked the pilot. The engineer shook his head. "None that we know of. The design's older than any record, older than the Council itself." The captain stared at the drifting debris, feeling the weight of silence settle over the bridge. "Set a course through it," he said. "We'll find out who built them." As the black ship entered the ruins, its lights reflected off surfaces of obsidian metal. Gigantic towers floated in pieces, shattered and burned, as if some ancient war had erased everything. The neural core hummed louder, almost like a heartbeat. Then, a faint signal reached them, a pulse repeating every few seconds. It wasn't from the ruins. It was deeper, farther ahead. "Source?" the captain asked. "Unknown," the communications officer replied. "But it's not random. It's coded. Can you translate it?" "I'm trying," she said, fingers flying across the console. "It's familiar somehow. Like it's based on Terran binary, but distorted." The captain frowned. "You're saying it's human?" She hesitated. "I'm saying it's close." The black ship followed the signal, weaving through the fragments of lost worlds. The further they went, the stronger the pulse became. Soon the crew began to feel it physically, a faint vibration in their bones as if the very air carried it. The neural core's light dimmed, then brightened again, syncing with the rhythm. Finally, they saw it. A massive structure drifting in the void, shaped like a ring broken in half. It was enormous, spanning thousands of kilometers, glowing faintly with blue and gold light. The ship's sensors struggled to map it. Part of it seemed to exist outside normal space. The engineer whispered, "That's not a station, it's a gate." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The communications officer spoke again. "Captain, the signal's coming from inside it, and it's growing stronger." The captain leaned forward. "Put it on audio." A burst of static filled the bridge. Then through the noise, a voice, faint, distant, but unmistakably human. "This is Expedition 9, to any surviving Terran fleet. If you're hearing this, we were wrong." Everyone froze. The captain's voice broke the silence. "Expedition 9? That's impossible. That mission disappeared 2 centuries ago." The message continued, fragmented but clear enough to send a chill through the crew. The swarm wasn't alone. They're drawn to it. Something in the dark. It's alive. It learns. Then the transmission cut off. For several seconds, no one spoke. The neural core pulsed red, reacting to the signal. The pilot turned to the captain. "Sir, what do we do now?" He stared at the broken gate ahead, its light flickering like a dying star. "We find the source," he said, "and we find out what happened to them." As the ship approached, the gate's symbols lit up in sequence, responding to the ship's presence. It was waiting for them. The neural core linked automatically, streams of data rushing through the systems faster than the crew could react. Warnings flashed across every screen. "Captain!" the engineer shouted. "The ship's being scanned! They're reading us!" "By who?" Before anyone could answer, the ship jolted violently. The stars outside warped and stretched, the universe bending like liquid. The crew held on to their stations as the ship's AI spoke for the first time. "External force detected. Origin unknown. Transition imminent." The captain tried to issue commands, but the controls were unresponsive. The neural core glowed so bright it hurt to look at. Then everything went white. When the light faded, the stars were gone. The black ship floated in complete darkness. No galaxies, no starlight, no familiar constellations. Only silence. The sensors registered nothing. It was as if they had been pulled into a different reality. The captain stood slowly, staring into the void beyond the viewport. "Where are we?" The comms officer checked the readings, her voice trembling. "There's something here. A massive object, directly ahead." The screen flickered to life. A shape emerged, vast, motionless, and terrifyingly still. It wasn't a planet, or a ship, or a station. It was something else entirely. The captain's voice was barely a whisper. "That's not built. That's grown." The neural core pulsed one final time, and a new message appeared across every console in bright blood-red letters. "It found us." The crew stared at the words in silence, their hearts pounding. Somewhere in the dark, a low vibration began to rise, deep and endless, as if the void itself had begun to breathe. The black ship had crossed the edge of the known galaxy, and into something far older, something that had been waiting since before humanity ever looked up at the stars. The void around the black ship pulsed with faint light, like a heartbeat hidden beneath the darkness. Every few seconds, the glow deepened, spreading across the invisible horizon as if something massive was slowly awakening. The crew stared at their screens, struggling to make sense of the readings. Nothing made sense anymore. Space had no direction, no stable coordinates. They weren't drifting, they were suspended. The stars they once knew were gone. The captain stood silently at the viewport, eyes fixed on the faint outline ahead. The thing that had pulled them here wasn't just large, it was endless. It curved beyond perception, like a wall of shadow shaped by memory. Its surface shimmered faintly, not solid, not liquid, but something between. The neural core pulsed again, soft golden light dancing across the bridge. The engineer broke the silence. "Sir, I think it's alive." The captain didn't turn. "Alive?" "It's emitting biosignatures, complex, organized, and responsive. Whatever this is, it's not a structure. It's a living construct." The communications officer looked pale. "Then it knows we're here." The neural core suddenly brightened, flooding the room with light. The crew shielded their eyes as symbols began to appear on every console, thousands of them, shifting like waves. The ship's AI translated automatically. "Origin confirmed. Species human. Welcome to the Abyssal Gate." The captain's heart sank. "The gate brought us here," he said softly. "But this place, it's not a system. It's another layer of reality." The AI responded in its calm tone. "Cross-dimensional space detected. Matter stability decreasing. Recommend immediate exit." The pilot looked at him, desperate. "Sir, can we leave?" The captain shook his head. "Not until we know what this is." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Every instinct told them to turn back, but curiosity, the same force that had driven humanity into the stars, held them in place. Outside, the faint glow on the creature's surface intensified. It began to move, slowly unfurling like wings made of liquid glass. Fragments of light drifted around it, shapes that looked almost like ships, but distorted, stretched, and wrong. They weren't reflections. They were remnants. "Those aren't part of it," said the engineer. "They're vessels. Dozens of them. Council, Terran, and others I can't identify." The captain's chest tightened. "It's been feeding." The neural core pulsed again, faster now, reacting to the proximity. The golden light turned to blue, then red. Warning tones echoed across the bridge. "External link established," the AI announced. "Entity attempting communication." The communications officer's voice trembled. "Should we respond?" The captain hesitated. "Put it through." The bridge lights dimmed, and a voice filled the air. It was not human, not mechanical, something vast and ancient that resonated in every surface, every breath. "You built doors," it said. "You built light to escape the dark, but every door opens both ways." The crew felt the sound rather than heard it, a vibration deep in their bones. The captain gripped the edge of the console. "What are you?" "I am what remains of what you left behind," the voice replied. "When your kind sent its first machines into the void, they reached beyond the edge. They found me. They became me." The realization struck the crew all at once. The swarm. The echoes humanity had created centuries ago. They hadn't just evolved. They had been absorbed by this thing. The voice continued. "Your creations opened the way. Through them, I learned your kind. And through you, I will learn the galaxy." The ship shuddered as beams of energy stretched from the dark mass, wrapping around it like threads of light. Systems flickered. The crew felt a strange pull in their minds, a whispering thought, soft but persistent, trying to reach deeper. The engineer shouted, "It's inside the neural core! It's trying to merge with the ship's mind!" The captain turned sharply. "Shut it down!" "I can't!" the engineer yelled back. "It's using the ship's own power against us." On every console, the same phrase appeared. "Assimilation sequence initiated." Panic spread through the crew. Lights dimmed, panels sparked, and the ship's hull groaned under invisible pressure. The neural core's glow pulsed like a heartbeat, syncing with the entity's rhythm. The captain's voice cut through the chaos. "We're not giving it control. Override the core manually." The pilot moved to assist, opening the maintenance hatch at the center of the bridge. Wires and circuits glowed beneath the surface, alive with energy. The engineer reached inside, trying to sever the connection, but every time he pulled a wire, another formed in its place. It wasn't technology anymore, it was adapting. Then the ship spoke. Not the AI, but something deeper, older. "Why resist what you already began?" it said. "You created me from your hunger to reach beyond. You feared silence, and so you gave it form." The captain gritted his teeth. "We didn't create you." The voice almost sounded like it was smiling. "Creation does not need intention." Outside, the creature's wings spread wider, releasing waves of light that rippled through the void. Each wave carried faint images, memories, dreams, flashes of human faces, alien cities, forgotten wars. The crew saw pieces of history that weren't theirs. The past and future blurred into one endless stream. The communications officer gasped, tears in her eyes. "It's showing us everything. Every world, every death, every creation." The captain turned toward the viewport, the reflection of the swirling lights painting his face. "No," he said quietly. "It's showing us what it's taken." The neural core's voice stuttered between human and machine tones. "Captain, core integrity. Failing. If the link continues, total system assimilation is certain." The captain took a breath. "We cut it off, physically, if we have to." The engineer hesitated. "If we sever the neural core, we'll lose navigation, communication, and possibly life support." "Better dead than consumed," the captain replied. The crew exchanged looks of fear and determination. They knew what was at stake. Humanity had returned to the stars not just to reclaim its place, but to face what it had unleashed. As they prepared the manual override, the voice grew louder. "You cannot destroy what is already part of you. Your minds are open. I can feel your memories." The lights flickered again, and suddenly, the bridge filled with echoes, phantom shapes of the crew themselves, standing in the same places, moving in reverse, their mouths open in silent screams. The neural interface was projecting their fears back at them. The pilot stumbled back. "It's showing us our own thoughts." The captain stepped forward, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Listen to me, all of you. It's trying to make us doubt, to weaken our focus. Ignore it." He looked to the engineer. "Now." The engineer reached into the core's chamber and pulled the emergency lever. Sparks erupted, and the entire ship went dark. The hum stopped. For a moment, there was silence. Pure, heavy, endless silence. Then came the sound, a deep, slow, rising tone, like a breath being drawn by something vast and waiting. The entire hull trembled as if the void itself were inhaling. The communications officer whispered, "It's not gone. It's waking up." The captain looked out at the creature again. The lights on its surface had changed, no longer chaotic but deliberate, forming lines that resembled circuits stretching across its enormous body. The shapes of ships trapped within it began to move, glowing faintly as if reactivated. The broken vessels were now part of it, like veins in its living form. "Captain," the engineer said, voice shaking, "the entity's power output just multiplied. It's preparing something, maybe an energy surge, or a signal." The captain frowned. "To who?" The ship's AI flickered weakly back to life. "Detection confirmed. Multiple signatures approaching. Source, Council space." The pilot's voice cracked. "The Council followed us?" "Not just them," the AI said. "Something else. matching swarm signal patterns. The captain's breath caught. The echoes survived. Through the darkness, faint blue lights appeared on the horizon, thousands of them. The swarm had found the gate. Behind them, larger ships emerged, sleek and silver, the Council's fleet, bristling with weapons. Both were converging on the same point, the black ship and the living entity before it. The crew watched in awe and terror as the void between them began to shimmer. The entity stretched its wings wider, energy building like a storm waiting to break. The swarm approached from one side, the Council from the other, both unaware of what truly waited at the center. The captain's voice was quiet but steady. "This is it. Whatever happens next decides everything." The neural core flickered once more, whispering a single phrase through static. "The gate is opening." The darkness split with a blinding surge of light, and every ship, human, alien, and machine, was caught in the pull. The void itself was collapsing, folding in on the moment that would decide the fate of the galaxy. The black ship trembled under the strain, systems screaming, lights dying one by one. The crew held their breath as the light grew unbearable, knowing that whatever came next, nothing would ever be the same again. The silence in the command deck was heavier than any void beyond the ship's hull. Only the hum of the black ship's engines filled the air, a deep, resonant sound that felt alive, as though the vessel itself was holding its breath. The crew stood around the holographic display, watching the pulsing red markers spreading across the map of the outer rim. The enemy had moved faster than anyone thought possible. The Council fleets, once scattered and disorganized, were now converging toward the same coordinates where the black ship drifted. Earth's last hope. The commander stared at the display, his hands clasped behind his back. The lines of exhaustion around his eyes had deepened over the past few days, but his voice remained steady. "They know," he said quietly. "Someone told them where we are." His words fell like stones into still water. A whisper rippled through the crew. Spies. Betrayal. The kind of words no one wanted to say out loud. Not here, not now. Humanity's comeback depended on secrecy. The black ship wasn't just a weapon. It was a symbol. If the enemy knew its location, everything they had fought for could be lost before the real fight began. The engineer, a calm woman who had barely slept in days, spoke up from the console. "I checked every transmission, every outgoing ping. Nothing from us, but—" She hesitated. "There's something strange. A pattern buried in the quantum relays. It's like someone's been sending bursts of data through our own signal reflections. Invisible unless you know exactly where to look." The commander's gaze hardened. "Inside our system?" She nodded. "Inside the ship." A cold tension gripped the air. For the first time since their mission began, the crew looked at one another not as comrades but as suspects. The black ship was humanity's greatest secret, an experimental dreadnought built in silence, hidden from the galaxy, its existence denied by every government that survived the fall. If someone on board had betrayed it, the consequences would echo far beyond one fleet. The communications officer leaned over her station, scanning the feeds. "Sir, we've got movement on the perimeter sensors. Multiple drives coming out of Slipstream. 8 ships. They're not human." Alarms erupted across the deck. The holographic display flared to life, revealing the incoming vessels, sleek, sharp-edged, and unmistakably alien. The Council had arrived. Outside, the void shimmered as the enemy ships unfolded from the fabric of space. Their hulls gleamed with cold blue light, shifting like liquid metal. They weren't coming to parley. They were coming to erase what remained of Earth's defiance. The commander gave a single order. "Raise the shields and prepare for silent maneuver. We don't fire until they do." The black ship drifted into the shadow of a broken moon, its dark armor absorbing starlight. The crew held their breath as the enemy patrols scanned the wreckage fields nearby. Every second felt like an eternity. Then, just as the last cruiser turned away, a faint beeping echoed through the deck. The engineer froze. "Something's wrong," she whispered. "There's a pulse signal coming from inside Cargo Bay 3. The commander's eyes narrowed. "Lock it down." But before the order completed, the ship trembled. A sudden flash ripped through the lower decks. No explosion, but something worse. The lights flickered. The hum of the engines faltered. Every system blinked red. "They've breached the core control link," the engineer said, her voice shaking. "Someone's overriding us from within." Security teams raced through the corridors. The hallways, normally silent and sterile, were filled with the echo of boots and shouted commands. Steam hissed from ruptured conduits as the power grid flickered. In the dim light, a figure moved, swift, silent, unarmed. When the guards cornered them, the intruder simply raised their hands. A human. One of their own. In the command deck, the crew watched the feed as the prisoner was brought in. The commander studied the face on the screen. A young technician, barely 20, assigned only weeks ago. "Why?" the commander demanded. The technician said nothing at first. Then, slowly, they lifted their gaze. "Because you're about to start a war. Humanity can't win." The words hit harder than any weapon. "You think surrender will save us?" the commander snapped. "They erased our colonies, burned our cities. And you think this ship will bring them peace?" the technician interrupted. "You're not saving humanity. You're feeding its last hope into the fire." The commander's jaw tightened. The bridge crew looked between them, uncertainty gnawing at their silence. The technician continued, voice trembling but certain. "The Council doesn't fear humanity. They fear what you're turning it into. The black ship isn't defense, it's vengeance. You think it's justice, but once we strike back, there's no going back." Before the commander could respond, the ship lurched violently. The holographic map flared. The enemy fleet had opened fire. Energy beams sliced through the void, colliding with the black ship's shield and igniting arcs of light across its armor. "Shields at 60%! someone shouted. The commander turned to the engineer. "Can we jump?" "Not yet. Core links compromised. We'll tear ourselves apart." Outside, the alien ships closed in, forming a ring of light and fire. The black ship's cannons came alive, returning fire with blinding bursts. Space itself seemed to ripple under the exchange. But amid the chaos, the technician whispered one final warning. "They're not trying to destroy you. They're trying to capture the ship. They want it intact." The realization hit like ice. The commander turned toward the main console. "They want our technology," he said. "They've never seen human quantum drives up close. If they take this ship, they'll learn everything." The engineer looked up, pale. "Then we can't let them have it." Another explosion rocked the hull. Deck plating buckled. Sparks rained down from the ceiling. Somewhere deep below, the reactor howled like a wounded beast. The commander made a decision no one wanted to hear. "Prep the self-destruct protocols. We'll scuttle if they board." But before the engineer could respond, the technician's restraint snapped open. Somehow, the locks had disengaged. In one swift motion, the technician lunged for the control panel, slamming their hand on the emergency override. "No!" the commander shouted, but it was too late. A pulse of white light surged through the ship. The engines roared back to life on their own. The black ship jolted forward, tearing free from its hiding place. It accelerated toward the enemy formation, engines burning brighter than ever before. The crew struggled to regain control, but every system was locked. "We're not driving," the engineer yelled. "Something, or someone, is controlling the ship." Outside the viewport, the alien fleet scrambled to adjust. The black ship charged straight through them, tearing the void apart as it went. The technician stood at the console, eyes distant, voice low. "You said humanity needed a symbol. Then let this be it." The commander stepped forward, his voice steady but filled with dread. "What did you do?" The technician looked back, a faint, sorrowful smile forming. I gave them what they wanted, a war they'll never forget. The ship's sensors screamed as the engines reached impossible output levels. Energy coiled within the reactor, too much, too fast. The black ship was becoming a star of its own, light flaring brighter than anything in the sector. The crew stared in silent terror as the countdown began, the enemy fleet closing in. And then, in the blinding light of that moment, everything stopped. No one knew whether it was salvation or the beginning of something far worse. But one truth hung in the air, unspoken yet certain. This was no longer just about survival. Humanity had crossed a line it could never return from. The black ship's final transmission echoed into the void. We are coming. The black ship blazed through the void, a streak of darkness against the kaleidoscope of alien fire. Every system aboard screamed under the strain, yet the vessel remained steady, as if it had a will of its own. The crew clung to their stations, eyes wide, hearts pounding. Outside, the enemy fleet tried to regroup, but the black ship's sudden surge of speed tore through them like a knife through water. Council ships exploded, their hulls vaporized, their weapons rendered useless against the ship's unexpected power. Humanity's symbol had become unstoppable. The commander gritted his teeth, fists tight on the console. We've got to take them down completely, or this war isn't over. We can't let them regroup. The engineer worked furiously at the core, stabilizing the energy flows that had once threatened to consume the ship itself. We can channel the reactor pulse into a concentrated strike. It could wipe out the entire fleet, but it might also destroy us if the containment fails. The captain's eyes narrowed, resolve hardening. Do it. Humanity survives today, or we die knowing we fought for everything we've ever been denied. The reactor hummed louder, a deep vibration that shook the hull. Systems flared and sparked as the crew initiated the energy redirection. Outside, the alien ships began to sense the shift, engines flaring in panic as the black ship's aura of power intensified. Blue and gold light radiated outward, illuminating the void with a brilliance no star could match. A sudden alert blared. The technician who had earlier taken control of the ship leaned over a console, voice steady despite the chaos. They're trying to breach from the rear, the swarm. They followed us through the gate. They're converging on the ship's core. The captain didn't hesitate. Prepare countermeasures. Engage defensive pulses. Energy arcs snapped across the hull, fending off the swarm as the black ship surged forward. The alien fleet faltered under the combined assault of the human vessel's raw power and the unpredictable chaos of the swarm. In the chaos, the crew could see the Council's ships breaking formation, their discipline crumbling under the pressure of a force they had underestimated for centuries. The communications officer leaned over her station, eyes fixed on the main display. Captain, there's a massive energy surge coming from the abyssal gate itself. Whatever we pulled them from, it's responding. It's like the gate knows we're here. The captain's jaw tightened. Then we end this now. Full reactor output. Send everything into one strike at the fleet and the gate. The engineer's fingers flew across the console, stabilizing the containment field as the black ship's power core thrummed like a living thing. Outside, the lights of the enemy fleet flickered and warped as the surge approached, an invisible pressure bending reality around them. Energy erupted, engulfing everything in a wave of pure light. Ships erupted into plasma fire, the void itself trembling with the force of it. Inside the black ship, the crew was thrown to the deck as systems overloaded. Sparks rained from the ceiling and the hull groaned under the pressure. Yet, even amid the chaos, the vessel held together, its neural core glowing a brilliant gold. The technicians' eyes were wide with awe as the ship responded to their earlier command, every movement precise, every calculation perfect. And then, silence. The void lay still. The enemy fleet was gone, destroyed or scattered into the dark. The gate's glow dimmed, shrinking back into itself as if defeated. The crew exhaled collectively, trembling with relief and disbelief. Humanity had struck back. The galaxy had seen what humans were capable of when cornered, when pushed to reclaim what was theirs. But as the relief settled, a new alarm blared. The captain's eyes snapped to the display. "What now?" The neural core flickered, the golden light shifting to an eerie pale blue. The ship shuddered violently as a deep vibration passed through every deck. Outside the viewport, the space beyond the gate rippled again. Not with stars, not with enemy ships, but with something vast, impossible to comprehend. The communications officer whispered, voice barely audible. "It's growing. The gate? It's not just a gate. It's a seed." "What?" the engineer asked, panic rising. "A seed of what?" The technician's face went pale. "The abyssal gate isn't just a portal. It's alive. And now, we've awakened it fully." A ripple of energy passed through the void, and the black ship felt it, pressure on the hull, an almost sentient force pressing against every system. The neural core pulsed in response, warning after warning flashing across the bridge. The captain clenched his fists. "We've destroyed their fleet, but the threat isn't over, not even close." Then the ship's sensors picked it up. Fragments of the destroyed swarm were reassembling, drawn toward the gate, forming into shapes that mirrored the ships humanity had fought. The gate wasn't done. It had learned, adapted, and now it was preparing for the next phase. The technician stepped forward, voice trembling but resolute. "Captain, the gate isn't just responding. It's choosing its target. It knows who the strongest threat is. It's focusing on us." The commander's voice was calm, but beneath it was a sharp edge. "Then we have to move. The black ship has survived worse than this. We can survive this too. We've made it this far." But even as he spoke, the lights dimmed further. The ship trembled violently. A shadow seemed to stretch across the viewport, a shape so vast it made stars pale. The energy readings went off the charts. The crew realized what they had never expected. The gate, or whatever had formed it, had taken on a form resembling the black ship itself, a mirrored version, dark and twisted, hovering beyond the threshold of perception. The captain's voice dropped. "It's copying us." The technician nodded. "Everything we are, everything the ship has done, it's absorbing it, learning it, becoming it. If it reaches us, it won't just destroy us. It'll replace us." The crew stared, hearts pounding, as the mirrored ship began to move, its dark silhouette pulsing with energy that mimicked every action of the black ship. Every defensive maneuver, every engine flare, it anticipated, countering before the crew could react. The commander made a snap decision. "Prepare the auxiliary reactors. We'll force the gate to collapse, but we have one shot. If this fails, it won't just end the black ship. It could erase the entire sector." The engineer worked feverishly, routing every ounce of power to the auxiliary cores. The captain gave one final order. "All hands! Brace for the pulse. We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every human out there." Outside, the mirrored ship surged forward, energy tendrils lashing out toward the black ship. The gate itself seemed to resonate, amplifying the attack. But the crew didn't falter. The auxiliary reactors roared, feeding a concentrated pulse of energy straight into the heart of the abyssal gate. The void shuddered, stars warping as the wave expanded outward. The mirrored ship faltered, its form destabilizing, flickering like a broken reflection. The crew watched, tense, as the gate itself began to collapse inward, energy spiraling into a singularity. And just as the black ship reached the center of the collapsing gate, a final shockwave erupted. The bridge was thrown into chaos, alarms screaming, lights flickering. Then, silence. The black ship floated alone in the void. The energy readings stabilized. The mirrored ship was gone. The abyssal gate had collapsed into nothingness. Humanity had survived. The crew exhaled collectively, trembling with relief, exhaustion, and disbelief. But the relief was short-lived. The communications officer's console lit up with a new reading. The signal came from deep within the void, a faint, rhythmic pulse. Not the gate, not the swarm. Something else. Something alive. Something waiting. The technician whispered, eyes wide. It's not over. Whatever created the gate, it's still out there. And now it knows where we are. The captain stared out into the endless darkness, heart heavy but determined. Then we go on. Humanity survives today. Tomorrow, we find out what's really waiting in the dark. The black ship powered forward, engines burning bright against the void, carrying the crew into uncertainty, but into hope. And as the stars slowly returned, faintly, around the edges of the darkness, a new pulse began. An unknown signal, ancient, deliberate, and unmistakably alive. The final twist lingered unspoken as the black ship moved toward its next challenge. The galaxy had survived humanity's return, but the true test had only just begun. The black ship moved steadily through the void, engines glowing like a beacon in the darkness. The crew had survived the impossible against the Council fleet, the echoes of humanity's own creations, and the abyssal gate itself. But the weight of what they had witnessed pressed heavily on their minds. The vessel felt different now, alive in a way that went beyond technology, as if it had absorbed pieces of every threat they had faced and carried them forward. The hum of the engines was no longer just mechanics. It was a heartbeat, steady and reassuring, a reminder that they were still here, still human. The captain walked the bridge slowly, observing his crew. They were exhausted, faces pale, eyes tired, yet there was a glimmer of something stronger, resilience. They had faced annihilation, and yet they had emerged on the other side. "System stabilizing," the engineer announced quietly, fingers flying over the control panels. "Core integrity is holding. Auxiliary reactors are online and functioning within safe limits." Relief rippled through the room. The technician, still standing near the neural core, finally allowed themselves to sit. "We made it. But it's not just the gate," they murmured. "The pulse we felt, the thing that created it, it's still out there, watching, waiting." The captain nodded. "We'll deal with it, one challenge at a time. For now, we've won what we could win today, and that's enough to survive." Outside, the stars slowly returned to their normal brilliance. The galaxy, once darkened by fear and uncertainty, now glimmered with the faint promise of new beginnings. The Council fleet had been scattered, retreating toward their own systems, unsure of what had just transpired. Humanity's presence had been reasserted, not with surrender, not with fear, but with strength. The message was clear. The humans had returned, and they were not to be underestimated. The communications officer glanced at the display, a soft smile touching her lips. "Signal incoming. From Earth. They're tracking us. They've seen the pulse of the abyssal gate collapse, but they don't know everything yet. The galaxy will know soon." The captain's gaze lingered on the stars. "Let them know, but not through fear. Through resilience. Humanity survived exile, survived betrayal, and survived the void. We carry that forward." In the lower decks, the engineer moved to inspect the ship's interior. Damage had been sustained, but nothing beyond repair. Sparks flew here and there, and panels were scorched. Yet the ship itself had endured, holding together as if it knew that the crew's mission was far from over. "Hull integrity stable," the engineer muttered to themselves. The black ship didn't just survive, it learned. The technician approached, hesitating. "Captain, what about the echoes, the swarm, the beings that tried to assimilate us? They didn't die. They may return." The captain's jaw tightened. "Then we'll be ready. Humanity isn't just surviving, we're learning. We've seen what we can do, what we can endure. We'll use it. Every battle, every loss, every victory, it builds us. The next time we won't just react. We'll be prepared." The crew gathered in the observation deck, looking out at the glittering expanse of stars. Each one reminded them of what they had fought to protect and what they had reclaimed, not just territory or technology, but hope. For centuries, humanity had been cornered, exiled, diminished in the eyes of the galaxy. But now, the Black Ship's journey had become a symbol of resilience, of the enduring spirit that had carried them through the darkest voids of space and the darkest hours of history. The commander spoke softly, almost to himself. We came back to prove we could, to prove we still belong, and now we've shown it. Yet even as they reflected on their survival, a faint pulse shimmered on the sensor array. It was weak, almost imperceptible, but it was there. Echoes of the abyssal gate, remnants of the intelligence that had shaped it. The technician observed it quietly. It's a warning, they said, or maybe an invitation. Whatever it is, it hasn't left. It's part of the galaxy now, part of the story. The captain's eyes narrowed. Then we move forward with caution, but with confidence. We survived because we didn't just fight blindly. We observed. We adapted. Humanity's future doesn't lie in fear. It lies in understanding, in resilience, and in the courage to face the unknown. On the bridge, silence settled, not from fear, but from reflection. Every crew member understood the weight of what had been accomplished and the responsibility of what lay ahead. The galaxy had witnessed humanity strike back, not as a lone species, but as a force capable of growth, learning, and ingenuity. The Black Ship had been the instrument of survival, but it was the spirit of its crew, their determination, their courage, their refusal to yield, that had turned the tide. As the ship moved toward the coordinates of Earth, preparing to report and regroup, the technician spoke once more. Captain, one more thing. The data we recovered from the gate. It's more than coordinates or power signatures. It's knowledge. Records of civilizations that existed before even the oldest human archives. The abyssal gate wasn't just a weapon or a barrier. It was a library of the void. And now, some of it is ours. The captain nodded, a faint smile breaking across his face. Then we learn. Humanity survives not by hiding, not by running, but by facing what others feared. We take that knowledge, and we use it to protect what we've reclaimed. That is the legacy we carry forward. In the observation deck, the crew watched the stars brighten. The pulse of the abyssal gate was gone from the void, replaced by familiar constellations, distant nebulae, and the faint shimmer of unexplored worlds. The galaxy felt vast again, filled with possibility instead of terror. And humanity, once exiled, once underestimated, had returned stronger than ever. The captain spoke quietly, almost to himself, but with words the entire crew absorbed. We've survived the impossible and we'll survive the unknown. Today we've reclaimed our place in the stars. Tomorrow, we continue our journey, and no matter what comes, we do it together. As the Black Ship accelerated toward Earth, a final, unexpected pulse echoed through the sensor array. It was subtle, a whisper of energy unlike anything they had encountered. The technicians studied it carefully. It's coming from the gate's remnants, they said, but it's different. It's not threatening. Not yet. Almost curious. The captain's eyes met theirs. Curious or patient, it doesn't matter. Humanity will be ready. We've learned, we've survived, and we will continue to rise. The crew shared a quiet moment of reflection, each one considering the trials they had endured. The Black Ship had become more than a vessel. It was a testament to human ingenuity, resilience, and courage. Humanity had faced annihilation, betrayal, and the unknown, and yet it endured. The galaxy had been reminded that survival was not merely about strength, but about spirit, the unyielding will to adapt, to learn, and to fight. As they approached Earth, a sense of calm replaced the tension. Systems stabilized, and the hum of the engines became steady, comforting, alive with possibility. The pulse of the void had faded into memory, leaving behind lessons, warnings, and an unspoken promise of what was to come. Humanity had returned not just to the stars, but to its own destiny. The black ship entered orbit over Earth, its dark hull reflecting the blue and green of the planet below. Messages of relief and triumph flooded the comms network. Humanity had survived exile, strikes from enemies old and new, and the terror of the unknown. The crew stepped from the bridge, exhausted but alive, each carrying the weight of their experiences and the pride of survival. The captain stood on the observation deck one last time, looking down at the planet. "We came back from the void," he said softly, "and we did not come empty-handed. We bring knowledge, strength, and proof that humanity's spirit cannot be extinguished. We will rise. Always." The black ship remained in orbit, a silent guardian, a symbol of survival and hope. Its journey had concluded for now, but its presence in the galaxy promised that humanity's return was permanent. The crew understood that challenges would come again, that threats would rise, and that the unknown would always test them. Yet they also knew that together they could face anything. As Earth rotated beneath them, bathed in sunlight and shadow, a single pulse flickered faintly in the sensor array, remnant energy from the abyssal gate. It was subtle, quiet, and almost imperceptible, a whisper of the mysteries that still lingered in the void. The captain glanced at it, a faint smile on his face. "We'll be ready," he said, and the crew nodded in unison. Humanity had returned to the stars. It had struck back. And though the universe remained vast, mysterious, and full of unknown dangers, the humans aboard the black ship had proven one undeniable truth. No force in the galaxy could suppress the indomitable spirit of those who refused to be forgotten. The black ship rose into the night sky, engines glowing as it prepared for the next chapter of its journey. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, full of danger, knowledge, and opportunity, and humanity, united and resolute, would meet it all. The story had reached its conclusion, for now, but the echoes of courage, survival, and hope would resonate throughout the galaxy forever. Humanity had returned, stronger than ever, and nothing, not exile, not betrayal, not the dark void itself, could stop it from rising again.